One, thank you for joining us. Today is a workshop. I'll call the meeting to order. It's a City of Hardeeville City Council workshop, 205 Main Street, Hardeeville, South Carolina, Monday, June 16th at 1 p.m. This is a workshop, so our rules of order are relaxed. I just remind everyone to please, when they want to speak, wait till the previous speaker has yielded the floor before you jump in. There's only going to be three of us this afternoon. Mr. White has a medical issue, and Mr. Carroll is celebrating. He was given a little away gift for Father's Day, so he's at Tybee Island enjoying some family time. So it's just the three of us, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gruber.
Thank you, Mayor. So on today's agenda, we have two separate matters that are both coming forward with regards to annexing into the city. Normally, the city's process would require an application, a number of technical documents to go with that application, and then those matters would be compiled by staff, confirmed for completeness, and then once confirmed, would go before the Planning Commission as an initial matter. With everything that the city has going on right now and a lot of the feedback from the public, we thought it was important to add this step to the process. So we're asking that the applicants ultimately come before City Council early on. That way they can get feedback from you all, understand kind of what they may be looking at as this would go through the formal review and approval process. But it's an opportunity today to understand what the two properties are looking to do, why they're looking to come into the city, and then council has an opportunity to provide any comment or feedback that they have to those property owners and applicants. With that, I will turn it over to staff and let them kind of tee up each one separately.
Good afternoon, and happy to give you as much information as I can, and the applicants, as Josh mentioned, are here as well. The first one is the Lucknow annexation. It is, thank you, Katie. I was trying to forget that doesn't work. It is located at where Speedway Boulevard and Alligator Alley meet. My understanding that while it currently takes up these two parcels, those are going to be combined and re-subdivided, so it won't be all of that land that's highlighted in red, but the applicant can certainly expand on that. That's a zoom out of it with where you can see the city limits as well as the National Wildlife Refuge. Just understand this is slightly out of our growth boundary, our annexation growth boundary. This is the proposal for the property. You will see the access will be over here where the crossover is at Alligator Alley and where 17 meets. And it is for a warehouse. It is 385,000 plus or minus. That's a shot of it looking at, hold on, let me check my notes. It's from Highway 17 at the property. And that's Alligator Alley. That's where the proposed full access point will be right there. And with that, that's the information we have on it currently. Obviously, with the warehouse shown on that exhibit, that is the use that they are proposing. And it would be a PDD, Plan Development District, initial master plan, and everything that comes with those uses, those processes. So with that, I'll turn it over to.
Sure.
You need a pointer.
Do you have our little presentation?
Yeah,
deal?
I'm stuck. Hold on. I don't know what's going on here.
I'll give you some time here.
This is the.
There we go. Okay.
Pointer, if you need a pointer.
Perfect.
Okay. The green button,
Perfect.
but it does not advance your slides.
It does not. Okay.
Katie's gonna have to do
Do I
that.
you want me to stomp my foot when I'm ready to go to the
Sure.
next one, or
That sounds
how do we
great.
do that? Thank you all for having us. I like this. Josh, I think we talked about this when I met with you guys. I like this approach. I like coming early and getting it on the board and talking about it.
I wish I would have gotten a trip for Father's Day. Instead, I got a bad baseball game yesterday and a pair of socks. So I didn't get quite what the other gentleman got. My name's Doug Smith. I'm with Seafried Properties. We are based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We have offices in Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles, and we build warehouse buildings, and that's what we do. And we've been around for 40 plus years. We've built over 200 million square feet of warehouse product around the country over the years. We do it on both a speculative basis, which is what this would be, in the sense that we would build the building and then we would look for tenants to come and occupy it. And then we also do build-to-suit work. Some of our build-to-suit clients include Home Depot for their warehouse buildings. Amazon's a big client, PetSmart. So we do a lot of build-to-suit work around the country as well. I don't know if you've ever seen the multi-story Amazon building that's on Interstate 16, just outside of Savannah, but we developed that building roughly 3 years ago. So we were founded in 1984 by Ferdinand Seafried. We currently have about $19 billion worth of industrial product under development right now. Considering the world we're in today, most of that's build-to-suits. There's not a lot of spec development, or not as much going on as there was. And then we also have a full-service line of business that includes property management, leasing, and what we call construction services, helping out our third-party industrial guys. Here, for this project, we would not handle the leasing. Stephen Ezel with Cushman & Wakefield would handle the leasing. And so that's a little bit about Seafried. On this deal, Clarion Partners is going to be our capital partner, so we have a capital partner. Clarion Partners is headquartered in Dallas. They have offices in Los Angeles and New York. They are focused on industrial warehouse product. If they were a publicly traded company, they would be the third largest owner of industrial product in the country, behind Prologis, which is the biggest. They're the biggest in the world. And Link, which is the company that is owned by Blackstone, and they're the second largest owner of industrial product in the world. Clarion would be third. Currently, assets under management's almost 1,000 properties over 35 different markets. Their industrial portfolio consists of about 228 million square feet with a $40 billion value. The second highest concentration of that is here in the Southeast. They're very active in the Southeast. And they've developed more than 127 million square feet over the last 12 years. The important thing about Clarion and what I want to make note of, is that this building will be in what they call an opportunity zone fund. And because this is an opportunity zone, and the fund is obligated to own the building for 10 years. So we're not just going to go build it, get it leased, and then flip it to an institutional owner that may not have the same mindset as Clarion, but they're going to own this building for 10 years. And we do a bunch of work with them, and they take care of their buildings, and they do a good job, and they take care of their tenants. It's one of the reasons they're one of the more successful owners of industrial product in the country. So I think it's important to know that they'll not only be owner of this building, but they'll be around Hardeeville relative to owning the building and being a part of it. So they're not just going to come and build it, sell it, and get out. So they'll be here for a while. All right, I'll talk a little bit about the master site plan. So again, it is, to Brandon's point, we're going to take, let's see, she's going to make me use this pointer. I'm better with my finger. Is it the green one?
That's the green one.
So I think right now the line kind of comes down through here, something like that. It could be the opposite way. But this site is owned currently by some gentlemen that were going to develop an RV park. And it is currently zoned for that in Jasper County. And basically what they figured out is that it would be best for them to explore the opportunity to sell the front portion to a warehouse developer, but then they're going to keep this back portion as an RV. And so they are going to stay in Jasper County. We would appreciate the opportunity to annex in, because it's the best route for us for this building. And so Joe will talk about this in a minute, but here's our main access to the building. We ended up putting in this secondary drive behind the building. We did it for two reasons. Number one, it's just simply better for fire access, for fire trucks to get around the building if it needs to. And then really it keeps truck traffic. So this will most likely be 2 tenants. There'll be 2 tenants in this building. And so we wanted to, and Clarion wanted to give access. So if you lease this front end, what you don't want is you don't want these trucks that are going to be going down here to be driving through a truck court and creating a safety issue. And so from our perspective, from Clarion's perspective, we wanted to create this second driveway so that this tenant can come down here and they don't have to interact with the tenant on this end. So it serves 2 purposes. One, fire access, and it serves the purpose of separating trucks from potential people walking in the truck court. Nobody wants people walking in the truck court, but they do it. So that was what we wanted to do there. And then again, main access here, and then we are going to build this access road here, which is what the folks in the back will use. It'll be a right in, right out. Joe will talk about that in a minute with the traffic and the driveways, but it'll be what we would call a somewhat of a limited access here. They can only turn right. They can only turn right. So they can't, obviously they can't turn left because there's no medium break there. So that's it, 385,000 square feet. Auto parking in the front, trucks in the back. That's kind of it. And I'm going to so Joe Scarborough is with me. He is with Seafree Properties. He's actually lives and his office is in Greenville, South Carolina. And so he will be the person ultimately on a day-to-day basis building this building with whoever the contractor is. And so he's going to walk through some of the open space stuff and the traffic and the other things to talk about that. And then we also have Doug Faircloth here with Coleman, who's our civil engineer. If we have any questions for the civil engineer, he'd be happy to answer. Joe, you're up.
Yep. Thanks, Doug. So the first slide here is just touching on open space and demonstrating what we have in our plan and how that compares to what the minimum requirements are for annexation into Hardeeville. Pretty straightforward calculation at the top here, just kind of compiles all the different areas that will remain open space, whether it's landscaped area, the allowable portion of the ponds, and some of the perimeter wetland features and buffers around them, around the site. The minimum threshold, I think, was 20%, and we're approaching twice that much open space at the plan at the end of the day based on this layout. Utility connections, also fairly straightforward. Our seller, who's developing the RV park, has done most of the work to get water and sewer brought out to the site. There is a large water line in US 17 that his development will use. We will also tie into that. It's either finished now or will be finished well before we start construction on site. They are also constructing a lift station for sewer back here at the back of the RV park. It's sized. It's bigger than kind of the combination of our load and his load will need at the end of the day. He originally sized it for a full-scale RV park, the entire parcel. Warehouse uses a lot less sewer than an RV park would, so there's plenty of capacity for sewer. I believe his intent is to build that to public standards, so Jasper County will own and operate that at the end of the day. Once he's finished constructing it, it's dedicated to them. Last thing to touch on the utility piece is power. They've already brought power into the RV park here along their driveway. We haven't fully designed our electrical service to the site yet, but we would anticipate coming in the same route as the RV park does for power. Traffic here. So we've got a pretty busy road on 17 right at the frontage of the site. The combined traffic of the RV development and our warehouse was analyzed by Access Engineering Group out of Charleston. And the traffic, the trips we're going to add to the infrastructure here really doesn't stress the road or these intersections at all. If you look at the level of service analysis of how these intersections perform now versus how they perform after we're done and our traffic is added to the road network here, it really doesn't decrease the functionality or the wait times at all. The recommended improvements from Access Engineers was basically to add turn lanes into and out of each driveway, and then one additional turn lane here at the medium break so that cars who are traveling northbound on 17 can make a left turn to get into the RV park driveway. We're really not improving the road network as much at all. We're just adding turn lanes so that vehicles coming into our site or the RV park can get out of the way of existing traffic quickly and not slow anybody else down. I think that's it, Doug, if you want to talk about other development.
Yeah, I was just, we put these in here as examples. I think it's just good to note that, we in Clarion build good quality buildings. They look good. They have all the accoutrements of a new Class A industrial warehouse building. These are some examples around the country. We did a nice opportunity zone deal up in Greer, South Carolina, that Joe handled building and getting done. We built 190,000 square foot building that was also going to be multi-tenant, ended up being one tenant. So, but we'll set this building up to either be the home for one or home for probably two, but it could do three if it needed to. That's all I have. We are here to answer any and all questions. Please fire them at us.
Oh, we will.
We do have an exhibit showing where the growth boundary is. That is the purple line. It does not match up exactly with those property lines, but it does go down 17 there, down Speedway Boulevard and then cut over. So it doesn't cut that property in half. It just did not match up exactly when they were combined. The layers were combined.
How far out of the growth boundary is it?
It's adjacent to it. The purple line is the growth boundary. And the red line is it's a property. So it is to the west of it, of the growth boundary.
Can I ask, you ladies will probably know, how often do we take in decisions outside of our growth boundary?
This is the second request that we've had since we've adopted the growth boundary. The first one is just south of here. I'll let Katie show you. Those parcels down there just below, across from where 315 comes into 17. And that was done 3 or 4 years ago.
Shortly after the growth boundary was.
Shortly after it, those discussions have been in place before the growth boundary was put in place, and that's when came in.
Anyone else? I have a couple. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Have you been in contact with, I'm sorry. Have you been in contact with Fish and Wildlife?
The original.
Please.
Sorry. The original wetlands delineation, which was done for the RV park, they were included in that wetlands delineation, but we have not specifically talked to them because that was already done under the original package of the project where they did the delineation and did all of the wetlands and whatnot, which would have reached out to them.
But that would have been for an RV park, not for the warehousing.
Well, we're staying out of the delineation, so we don't have to redelineate it. We're happy to reach out to them, but we haven't done it.
I think you should reach out to them. It's a critically sensitive area down there. A very sensitive area. I'd like to see something from Fish and Wildlife with what their approval or their thoughts or their concerns on this. And would be just this piece of property. It's going to be anything down there now.
Right.
What was done in the past, I wasn't on the council when that happened. I just do have concerns about the wetland areas. We as a council have heard a lot about it in the past year and a half, 2 years that Val and I have been on here. Drainage and other issues. Your stormwater retention pond. Concerns about that. We've asked other developers that have come in to make those ponds not handle 100%, but up to 200% of projected stormwater use to prevent overtopping and causing issues. Another concern I have is your traffic study. Having an RV park in behind is, I guess, it's an odd use, but it's an acceptable use. Will they be using the same common entrance as your warehouse customers?
No, sir. We're going to build them their own entrance to the north end of the building. So they'll have their, right here. So they'll have an entrance right here. So they're going to access.
Okay. So your development will only have one entrance and exit, correct?
Right, yeah. And then one of the reasons why we built the second drive was to increase flow through it, yes. But yeah, we'll have one.
But that won't connect with the other drive, correct?
It will not connect, no.
Okay. And your traffic study is, how recent is that traffic study?
2024.
2024.
Did it last year when we started the process with.
Okay. All right. Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Mayor.
Al, anything?
He touched on it a little bit about the stormwater management. Every time we go into waterlogged areas like that, we get big problems.
Right,
My biggest issue is, like he said, was the stormwater pond. And I generally like to ask developers when they come in, do stuff like that to make those ponds deeper, so we don't have the overtopping. And hopefully maybe do it to the 100-year flood, not to the 25 or 50-year flood, because I'm of the school where prevention is always better than cure.
right.
So, also the fact that there's the RV park behind there
Yeah.
as well. So the flooding issue gets ramped up because you have people back there
Right.
with the RVs. I mean, I know that's not your problem,
Yeah.
but you have the pond over there, and
Well, here, if I may, I want to point something out real quick. First of all, most of this RV is not going to be paved. Even the parking areas are not paved, if I'm remembering that correctly. So I'll double check that. But they have an existing pond that they've already built kind of right here. And as part of our agreement with the sellers, we are going to share both of these ponds. So we'll have to get with Coleman to make sure and see sort of what level we're going to be able to handle to. And we'll look at that and get that to these guys. But I think that, and this is a fairly large pond here. So the parking spaces are kind of L around this. And this whole area that looks like this is already a pond. It's already there. Now we're going to reshape it and we're going to move it around a little bit. And then we're going to combine it with our pond. And then the outflow will be right here that will go into the natural outflow that it goes to now. And so see, this is already here. We're going to make this pond bigger because we're going to take out that and use that dirt on the site. So it's going to be a lot of pond on the site, and they're going to combine and they're going to work together to handle all of the stormwater. So we'll get the calculations, but my guess is it's a pretty substantial ability to handle stormwater on site between the two ponds.
so you're telling me that the stormwater from both properties is going to drain into the pond on their side as well as on your side?
Correct.
Then it's going to, when it overflows, it will discharge where?
I think it discharges right up here. Isn't that right, Doug?
Okay, so knowing that we have vehicles on site and all that stuff, there's always oil spillage, gasoline spillage, all kinds of other stuff. And knowing that that's a wildlife refuge with a lot of trees and all of that stuff, what worries me is all those pollutants getting into the water. I mean, what are your plans to mitigate that?
Well, again, you hope that the outfall never gets used. You hope that it goes into the ponds and it just goes back into the earth, right? So that's a good question. Let me circle up with my team. I really hadn't given thought to that.
I know. I mean, I would like to give you guys the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You are good stewards of
100%, yeah.
our environment. I'm not a tree hugger by any state of the imagination, but I worry about stuff getting into our groundwater.
Sure.
So that's why I asked the question.
Yep.
Where is that discharge going to be?
Right.
Because of all the pollutants that's going to come with that water. I mean, you'd be kidding yourself if you say it's going to be just clean water going in there.
Right. I hear you. Yes, ma'am.
And then also the sharing of the road with the RV folks, so you're telling me that the road that you guys are going to build is just going to be for RV traffic?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we're going to give them an easement across the property to access their project. So that road right there does not connect to any of our driveways, not the auto parking, not the trailer park, not the truck court.
Okay. And what's the size of the buffer behind that separates your property from the RV park? How big is that buffer?
It's shown on the map.
Looks like it's a 25-foot.
I think it's a 25-foot.
Yeah, I think it's 25 feet.
25 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
25 feet is not a whole lot.
But then there's a big pond on the other side, but that, I would assume that that's what the code is for that, I would assume, right? Yeah,
So you're following the minimum code?
yeah, and again, that property will not be in the city, that will stay in
In Jasper?
in Jackson,
County, okay.
Jasper County, yes, ma'am.
So the road that you have that's going to be built to go into the RV park, how close is that road going to be to the pond?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, I don't know what the,
That's on the RV park.
it'll be,
There we
Okay,
go.
there we
And
go.
enlarge that a little bit if you could.
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be, I don't know what it would be, but,
It gets reshaped as that road comes through it.
this probably comes down a little bit, and this goes away and creates a bigger pond here.
Where does the road connect?
Yeah, where does that road connect?
The road comes in generally right about here, and it comes around here. So this will get reshaped a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to picture it. It's kind of hard to do that. Maybe Brenna and Katie can answer this. Any potential housing developments to come in this area down the road? Zoned, not zoned?
We don't know any.
Okay, so as far as right now and the time they get ready to build, we don't have any potential residential units getting built in the area?
Existing right here. Not that we are aware of right now.
Okay. But that will be in Jasper County, that's out of our growth boundary, correct?
The closest thing that we have that's going in is up at Gateway Oasis,
Okay,
which it's substantially,
yeah, okay.
But this is existing residential down here,
Right.
and then the purple line is the growth boundary.
Okay.
It's not within the city limits, it's within unincorporated Jasper
Jasper
County.
County,
But it
okay.
is within the growth boundary.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, that's all the questions I have.
I have a few. First of all, from a couple statements that you made, you have not purchased this property yet.
Correct. Yes, sir.
You're under,
We're under a purchase and sale agreement that is tied to potential annexation and zoning.
okay,
Yes, sir. We've done most of our due diligence work.
okay. And why annex? Why didn't you just go to Jasper County?
The truth of the matter is we talked to both, and we felt like that the best way to get it done was to come through Hardyville. We just felt like that we were hopeful that it would be more amenable to it, versus the county. County didn't seem to have much interest in even talking about it.
I agree with Mr. Mearsman. You need to talk to the wildlife refuge.
Okay.
So let's just, a hypothetical. We say, we're not interested. Do you go back to Jasper County?
I doubt it. I don't think we would. No,
Why not?
because my conversations with Jasper County didn't give me any inkling that they would even consider it.
Okay. There's the water lines coming from where?
It comes from, excuse me. Sorry. So the water lines, as we understand it today, are existing along Highway 17, fed up from up towards Riverport. Sewers go in the same direction.
So, and this is probably a question for staff. I know there's some water lines going up there. I'm concerned about, do we have capacity? Because I know from the other buildings that we have up there, there's a concern about this. So are we putting ourselves into do we cripple what we already have, or do we put them
We
under?
have noticed the same thing from conversations with BJWSA. But that's not something that we have the direct access to, whether they have the capacity right now, but there have been concerns nearby for Riverport and some of the other things going on.
And I've heard that as well. So what I'm concerned about, if we add on to the already existing concern, the concern gets bigger, right? Okay.
That's my understanding. We would have to get
Okay.
in a coordination with BJWSA.
So our processes require that they obtain an intent to serve letter from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. Part of the concern with that is an understanding about what that letter is actually conveying. Through our conversations with Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer, the issuance of an intent to serve letter is their expression that at some point, not necessarily today, but at some point, yes, we will serve this development. We've spoken with them about what we need from them is a current indication as, yes, we can actually serve this property. And so I don't know that we've asked that question with regards to this particular property, but we have asked them that as they go forward with issuing an intent to serve letter, that it should be equated to, we have the actual capacity to serve this development, not we will serve it at some undetermined point in the future.
And listen, we all know been down this road. That's a concern. You know, some of these intent to serve letters are good intentioned, but, you know, we're all feeling the pressure of not enough water sewer. So let me go on to sewer. The lift station, which is next to the wetlands up there. Okay, now I'm not a sewer guy, obviously, but I am concerned that we're going to put whatever a lift station is right next to the wildlife preserve, which is another reason why I think you need to talk to them. I'm also concerned about when you say after you build it, you're going to give it to Jasper County. Now, from what I know of Jasper County, and this is no slur, I don't think they're sewer experts either. So who would operate that? If you gave this over to Jasper County, now who operates that?
Yeah. Doug, that'd be Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority, not Jasper County. It would be Beaufort Jasper Water.
Oh, so you turn it over to
That's right.
BJWSA to operate, not Jasper County?
Correct.
Okay. That had me a little scared. So I definitely think you need to speak to the wildlife preserve to tell them where that's going to be, how that's going to operate, and how that potentially is going to affect their flow. Let's go to the map and where the right in, right out turns are. Okay, so there's going to be one access, the first yellow to the right, and that's to the RV park.
Yes, sir.
Now, I did a lot of touring Friday. Are there gonna be decels lane? Have US DOT been consulted with this plan?
They have. They've seen it. They've approved it at a high level. Yes, there'll be a decel lane here to come in and then a right out. And the same thing here, decel lane coming into ours and then an accel lane coming out.
So coming out, according to this map, these trucks can only go up Alligator Alley.
No, they can come across. They can come across and access.
They can go straight across.
They can come straight across and they can access 17 going north.
You know, at my little field trip on Friday, that has me extremely uncomfortable from a safety standpoint. And I know there's not a huge amount of traffic there, but it's a complicated traffic pattern there. People coming off of there, it's a little confusing. And these are not going to be, minis coming out of there. It's going to be trucks. And so that has me a little concerned. Because as we found at Exit 5, when these trucks want to come out, don't get in their way. It's up to you to yield, no matter whether they have. And so I'm really concerned at that crazy intersection that's the intersection there where they would go straight? Yeah, that's a little, quite honestly, it's frightening. It's frightening. And I'm no traffic expert, but I know it's not going to be, Grand Central Station there, but it has me quite concerned. So let me have. And this is going to be a common theme of mine today. And we have another project. I have a little longer history than probably anybody up here dealing with Jasper County. Up here, not down there, up here. And we up here have made decisions because we were not really confident in what Jasper County would do with our decision. So I think, and my recommendation to this council, even though, we got a whole new cast of characters, and I think that's a good reason why before we do anything, that we have a joint meeting with Jasper County and talk about the growth boundaries and how we're going to interact. Because, quite frankly, we've turned down annexation. Next thing you know, we got 3 million square feet of warehousing in a spot we don't want. Okay, so I think that's better that we have that conversation before we make any decisions and instead of after. So that's why we're having these workshops to study this. The other thing I have my concern, and it goes back to the water. A few years ago, and I said this to staff the other day, a few years ago, down White Hardy Boulevard, O'Reilly's wanted to come in. And we have nothing but competing businesses all along right there. Am I going to bring in another business that's going to kill the businesses I have? And that's my concern especially as it pertains to the water. Am I going to dry up the well while I've got 18 million square feet of warehousing we've already committed to a mile up the road? And that's a big concern. And that's why the letter of being able to service from BJWSA is so important. Because, we have the intent to service, but the ability to service is something we've questioned over and over again. And if I add to the competition in the area, I'm adding to the competition for the water sources. And that's a concern that I think we have to look into further before we get to a first reading. It's got to start with a conversation with Jasper County and a very frank conversation with BJWSA before we go any further. Does that make any sense, council?
It does, and there's a couple of questions I do.
Go ahead, go ahead.
As I'm looking at this, your traffic plan there, you have a spot right there for RVs coming north, so they're gonna pull a U-turn at that
Yes, sir.
tight area there.
Well, we're gonna create a little, a decel, a little entry lane on this side of it for them to pull off and get into it. They won't be pulling straight off of the through traffic. They'll have,
Still, you got a 20-foot pickup truck and a 35, 40-foot fifth wheel behind it. It takes up, you're basically looking at a semi driven by an amateur at that point.
Yep.
The other concern I have is down here where your entrance is, as I'm looking at it on my computer here, traffic coming from Savannah, if they come over the bridge from downtown, which would be probably the shortest route for container traffic, they're gonna head straight into this intersection right there, correct? And they're gonna, not only will there be a majority of your traffic coming out crossing this way, there's gonna be a majority of your traffic going in right there.
I think the majority of the traffic is going to turn right and go back across. And I think that the majority of the traffic that's gonna come in is gonna come in, and it is gonna turn left there and go into the building.
Alligator Alley goes to, what's the Roosevelt Bridge?
Goes into the old
And
Port
then
Wentworth.
it goes
Yeah.
into the old, so,
And that-
so,
when you get down
I'm
into
not
Port Wentworth,
disagreeing
you
with
get
you.
into two-lane streets all the way into the port. I mean,
yeah.
with all of the new construction going on in Savannah, the new cranes and everything else are closer. Truck driver's gonna take the closest route. I doubt if he's gonna wind his way all the way through, Old Port Wentworth, across the old bridge, and probably add 3-4 miles to the trip. So that's a concern that I have, is that intersection right there could be very congested at times. So, it looks like it needs a little bit more thought put in there.
So, Steve, should we require a more in-depth traffic study that we
Yes,
can see?
Yeah, we need a little bit more of a traffic study to understand where's that traffic gonna come from? Is it gonna come down Alligator Alley, or is it gonna come on 17 across the bridge? I don't know.
Here's another thing that we've talked about before, and I think it applies to this. A traffic study with blinders, as opposed to a traffic study of a bigger view, because we have 18 million square feet, 100, a mile up the road that is being built or in progress. So the traffic study has to take in a big view, not just your little view of your spot. There is 18 million square feet of warehousing in progress being built right now, land being cleared, and 10 years
Should
down.
take that into account, but we'll double check that.
Make sure that's our only point.
Yeah.
We want to see the big picture. We don't want to see a narrow picture when we need more than just that intersection.
Right.
We want to, what's going to be the impact 10, 20 years down the road? Because these decisions is going to impact the future, not next week.
Yeah. Agreed. But I do think, the majority of the traffic out of this building is gonna go across Alligator Alley, because it's a straight shot in. I know you get into a little neighborhood feel over there, and you get into some 2-lane roads, but I do think the majority of it going out of the building is gonna be going that way, with a certain portion of it going up 17 to get on 95, but it'll be a much smaller portion. And I do think,
That's something that we have to know. We can't just suggest and wait, we have to know. My concern that I expressed earlier about a letter from Fish and Wildlife. your property is surrounded on 3 sides, not just one side, but all 3 sides. So it's very important that there's a conversation with them, and if they have concerns, I'd like to hear them.
Right.
You know, basically, this is plopping something right in the middle of what's been designated as a wildlife area. And what was done years ago, we can't go back and change. But we have the opportunity now that if this happens, to make it the best product and the safest for everybody.
Right.
So, let me follow up on what you said. There's a couple things, and this goes back to big picture. What happens, the out traffic, there's 2 kinds of out traffic that'll happen. Number one, the empty trucks from offloading, right? But number 2, there's gonna be trucks of varying sizes going on the outbound. And that traffic won't necessarily be going back to the port. That may be going back up north. It may be going to the new exit 3 to get to I-95 or up to exit 5, whatever other exits. So I think, again, today, in thinking about, how do they get to the port, the outbound is going to go in a lot of different directions. And whereas one big truck comes in with X amount of boxes, there might be 6 trucks that go out to different spots, right? Because that's what logistics do, right? So I think all those things have to be taken into account when we look at this traffic study.
Right.
So to Steve's concern, it's not just all that, we just can't assume that everything's going to go right back to the port.
Right.
Okay, so, the concerns. And I think we need to understand that better. Steve, did you finish?
Yes, I'm done, sir.
Yeah, because the concern is with all, like the mayor said, with the rest of the building that's going on, has the potential to be some kind of like a mixing bowl kind of thing going on there. And, 18-wheelers, we're talking 18-wheelers and RVs. So, yeah, I think I'm very supportive of that bird's eye view.
Sure. Okay. We'll go back and relook at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you have all the questions, and Josh, if the council's agreeable, I think next step, let's get a hold of Jasper County and ask them to talk, I think a conversation about growth boundaries and growth and how we grow, as that particularly is important with the next one, as we talk about Levy. So perhaps both of these subjects are well-served by a conversation.
Yes, sir. We'll start sending some dates back and forth and see what we can get locked in on the calendar.
Right. Because, again, talking to Jasper County and talking to Jasper County Council are 2 different things. Jasper County Council makes the decision. And so it's better that the 10 of us elected officials are together and make sure we understand each other and what we want to do for the region going forward. So please be patient. This is every annexation. It's now adding to an already big city. It's not like it was 10 years ago, even when I showed up here. It was pretty blank still. It's not anymore. So the decisions are more complicated, and we have to be more careful. So I hope you appreciate. I do want to say to you, I greatly appreciate you get asked a question and you say you don't know the answer, you'll check.
Yeah.
That's very important to us, because this is a conversation on between the 2 of us on how to do this right. If we're not going to do it together, we're not going to do it.
Right.
Okay? So you have all the questions that the council asked? for follow-up. At this point, I would like to offer the public, if anyone from the public has any questions that they want to come forward with and ask either the council or the developer. Okay. That being the case, council, any last questions before we go to part two?
No, sir.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Thank you for your honesty and forthright answers.
Thank you all, we appreciate it.
No, it's not just about what's there now, it's what's going to be there. 10 years, 20. Yeah.
All the time. That's what exit 106.
Okay, let's turn it back to Mr. Gruber for part two.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the second request that the city's received. It is an opportunity for us to have staff kind of walk you through where this is located, what the applicant is requesting, and then similarly to the last applicant, it's an opportunity for us to informally have a conversation with this group prior to it moving forward for formal submission to the Planning Commission. And that way, any kind of questions, concerns, comments that you all might have, it gives the applicants an ability to understand those up front and then incorporate them into their application materials. And so having summarized it like that, turn it over to Brianna and let her kind of give you the more detailed version about what is involved with this particular application.
We're trying to get air for the council. Is that better? You can feel it? I think he just turned it down. Thank you, Chief. Okay, so now we have Pleasant Brook. It's for an annexation, PDD and IMP. This one is located in the Levy area off of Freedom Parkway and what's Honeysucker Road, which is just, I guess that's west, east-west of the intersection with Levy, Limehouse, Freedom Parkway, all of that. Clarius is down in this area. This is the parcels included are outlined in red here on Honeysucker Road. And that is where the city limits. The front parcel is already in the city of Hardeeville. It's part of the Monroe Tract, as is everything around. Was part of that original Savannah, Hardeeville Tract and or Monroe Tract, whichever one you want to call it. What they're proposing is to add the remainder of Honeysucker as well as the bottom portion, which is currently an equestrian farm. This is Honeysucker. You can see our truck is sitting on it, as well as the intersection looking back across Freedom Parkway. So these houses front on Freedom here. That's looking back towards 315 and then back towards the Limehouse Road, Levy intersection. That is some sites of the equestrian center that is at the end. They've had horse shows there in the past and everything. I don't know exactly how they're using it now, but that's what been there for a number of years. And this is where this is included in our girth boundary. You can see it comes down 17 over here and back up 315 this way. And this is right in the middle. With that, I can turn it over to Felipe,
Before you go, go back to that map. Could you show me where Macedonia Road is?
Macedonia Road is over here.
Okay, and that's,
So Clarice is here.
That-
You can see the clearings.
right,
for
but
Clarice.
Clarice is also on the right side of Macedonia, or just,
No, just on this portion right here. This is, remember what we called Little Texas? Is this area?
yeah, but it goes all the way down.
This is the Monroe Tract.
That's Monroe.
Yeah, it's more the Monroe Tract that Clarice just purchased this portion.
The reason I asked for Macedonia, that's where Mr. Harper lives.
Yeah, Mr. Harper's right in here.
He's right in there, and his kitchen is like 10 feet from the borderline there. Okay? So that whole section is Clarius. Now, I'd like to have the perspective of what we're talking about from there, from from Clarius. Okay, it's up there, okay. All right.
Clarice is between Levy Road and the abandoned rail right-of-way. This property is between Freedom Parkway and Levy Road.
Okay, all right, just wanted to get my perspective.
And I'm going to turn it over to Felipe, who is representing the applicant.
Good afternoon. My name
Good
is
afternoon.
Felipe Toledo with Thomas and Haddon, representing the applicant Richard Farms for the Pleasant Brook PDD IMP. Mayor, members of council. So today we bring to you this project, which is a 55-acre tract combined for the PDD. The intended use on the front is to have a light industrial commercial facility, no more than 59,000 square footage, type of for small business, kind of like HVAC or smaller shops to serve the community, because we recognize there's a lack of those type of buildings. This is not a tall warehouse like the one we see at Clarice or Riverport. This is intended to serve a much smaller user. As presented before, Honeysuckle Road exists in the property, and these roads gonna get realigned as part of the development. Access gonna be improved for safety, and it's gonna have a proper turn lane. The back of the property will not be developed at this time, and if any future plans of doing so changes, the applicant will have to come back in front of council and planning commission to establish that. So other things we have done so far in this project, we met with the community, specifically with the neighbors. We hosted a public meeting where the project was presented. The direct affected neighbors were all notified around the area, and then they show up, and we were able to answer their question, and overall was positive response after explaining the project. The road will be paved only up to this section. Past this section, it will be left as its existing condition to avoid any changing of the current conditions for the neighbors and trying to preserve as much as we can of the wetlands. The only wetland impact in this site is about 1/10 of an acre to be able to realign this access drive for Honeysuckle. As far as water and sewer, this site, we have gotten our Beaufort Jasper letter of will serve for connecting to there's an 8-inch water main that runs along Freedom Parkway. We will extend that into this area and connect to that. And for sewer, there is no sewer available from Beaufort Jasper. This will be served by a septic field. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Oh, and we have conducted a traffic study as well and cultural resources on the property.
Thank you. Council.
Why annex the back portion of the property if there's no intended use for it now?
It was requested from staff to meet the acreage requirement to bring up a PDD.
My concern with this is future use of the back of the property. Under the proposed zoning, it's wide open, but what concerns me, and we have that problem, not a problem, it's a realistic, is that property is primed for sand mining. And it is permitted under this zoning, correct?
The property is not suitable for sand mining.
Please come and identify yourself as well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. I'm Lauren Nemec. I'm with the applicant and Pritchard Farm. That property is not suitable for sand mining. The soils aren't productive there, so it's not. And if you'd like, we can certainly go through the application and we can redline that to make clear that that's not allowed on this property. So the intent of this is not to operate a sand mine there.
So are you with the applicant?
I am.
Okay.
The Honeysuckle Road, what's the width of that road? 50 feet?
For the right of way,
Yeah,
it's approximately.
approximately right, a 50-foot right of way. I'm just, the zoning is what the zoning is. I'm just uncomfortable because it allows pretty much anything and everything. The front part of the property, my concerns with that is we have a lot of residential popping up in that Levy area over there. I'm not saying that what the proposed use is not completely inconsistent, but I see, we have a septic drain field on there. So it's already in, I don't, if it was just the front part of the property, I would not have a problem. But taking the back part and not knowing what the future use is going to be is very concerning.
So, a couple of things. When you were referring earlier about the allowed use, you're correct. These properties used to be under Savannah Tract PDD. By request of staff, we have taken that out and put it on its own PDD with its own uses, such as commercial, limited industrial, and I believe there is a residential multifamily component reserved there.
Oh, let's see, just had that pulled up.
So,
For the master plan. For that.
the-
Yeah, I mean, automobile, truck, trailer manufacturing, repair, and distribution is allowed on that property. There is a lot of everything in there, and I came along a little bit late to this, and I understand how this is all works out. I'm not crazy about the allowed uses under all of this, but I really would like to know what the planned uses are. Because once we approve this, it's open. It's a done deal.
right, and right now, to clarify, on the back of the property, there's no plan development. So, when we present this IMP master plan to you, you're approving as what is shown. If we were to try to develop anything on the back, we are not allowed because we'll have to come in front of council to show you the updated master plan to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, pardon me for jumping in. I just would like to use this time constructively since we do have you here. So if there is any use that's on this list that gives you a lot of heartburn, we'd like to have this opportunity to talk about that. If there's something that's jumping out at you, we're not saying we're going to throw it out right now, but we would certainly like to know if that's something that's going to tie us up. And we don't have a programmed use for that second phase, for that back phase. But like Felipe said, we do have to come back with all of those plans and intents and do this process again. So as much as possible, we'd like to have the conversation with you now. What do you not want to see there? What do you want to see there? So.
The concern I have is the truck traffic and the using of that. You go back to that picture right there, Freedom Park was, take a look at that road. If you go to the one, the staff that you took with your truck, you see, Freedom Parkway itself is pretty chewed up.
Is this?
You see the patches and stuff in the road there. It's not geared for truck traffic. I would like to see those things taken out because without improving that road, there's no turn lane in there. There's nothing in there. Even for your warehousing, there'd have to be some road improvements for that.
So, if I may add, the traffic study I did identify, and we're planning for a turn lane for the site, thinking on the same concerns that you have for safety of access. As far as truck trafficking, this site is not intended for large trailers other than occasional deliveries. It's more like pseudo mid-sized type of pickup trucks or something. Small business would operate, but there could be eventually deliveries of larger trucks, but it's not the daily use of property. Yes, Katie, you have that exhibit that shows the buildings kind of concept, so we can show that.
Thank you.
That's kind of like the
Sure.
intention of the.
My concerns aren't so much with the front part of the property, I just have my reservations on the back part of the property. That's all. And, if we get to where we discuss approved uses and things like that, I'm happy to have staff sit down and staff would work with council to hammer that out. I just don't wanna dump a bunch of large truck traffic onto, that road without improvement being done. And when I say improvement, who's going to do it? How's it gonna get paid for?
Absolutely. That also remind you that the road is under control of DOT. They have
That's exactly what I'm
undergoing
saying, but
projects.
They're not forthcoming in speed or money. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Guzman?
I have one question. Did you say that you already have a letter of intent to sell from Gifford Hospital?
Correct, for water only, not sewer, because there's not sewer available.
May I ask what date that was dated?
If you give me a second, I can tell. Sorry, my little computer here is not too fast. Sorry, it's loading. But if you want, I can answer your other question. Here you go. The letter is from December 24.
What year?
2024.
Okay. So I see you have the septic drain field there. You're gonna have all that commercial property on a septic drain field.
Yeah,
And then you also have a pond there.
yeah, that's why the septic field is located away from the pond. There's requirement, and again, this is in concept, right? And it may be we ended up with the septic field in another more suitable corner of this site, but it has to be within a certain distance of water features like ponds and things like that.
Right, so what concerns me is like, I am very big into stormwater management. Is how do you plan to manage the stormwater issue when you have the septic drain field there? I mean, what process are you going to have in place to make sure that it doesn't overrun that septic drain field?
When septic fields are designed, you have to prove to the permitting agency that you have on not only your capacity but able to handle peaking factors of that. On top of that, you have to provide space for additional septic field where in the future that septic field were to become unusable because it reaches life expectancy. As far as storm drainage, our proposed outfall runs through the ditches on this wetland system. So eventually we'll have a crossing under the road and a ditch system that takes our water there. For the facility in itself, it will drain to inlets and pipes back into the pond. And again, we cannot just place a drainage feature such as a pond within a certain distance, right?
Yeah,
So-
and that was my biggest concern, because who's going to monitor to make sure that septic drain field is not leaking? I mean, what process goes in place to make sure that that's not happening? I mean, who monitors that? I mean, I'm just trying to understand the process, like the pond, is there going to be like regular testing for bacteria and all of that stuff getting released into that pond? And then where's the outflow of that pond going to?
From this point, it will flow down this way and eventually in the wetland system.
I guess that bothers me also, because if there is nothing in place to make sure that we don't have any leaks from the septic drain field into that pond, which is then going to drain into the wetlands, I have a problem with that.
Absolutely. I'm not an expert on the subject matter of infiltration, but we can understand. So to answer, I guess, your question, when we actually go through design, we gotta take care of these issues. We gotta design within the guidelines of the state and local agencies to get the septic field permitted. So those one of your concerns, like that's why they put in the ruling how far it can be from a feature of drainage. As far as I can try to find more information as far as how it gets more of the infiltration and all those to reduce the chances of, like to your point, leaking on the stormwater system.
Right. Okay, thank you, that's all I have, so.
This was a big part of my all-day little survey on Friday. And, well, first of all, let me get to a couple of questions. Same as the previous applicant. I think I know the answer to this one, but why annex?
It was required to meet the threshold of acreage for
For a
the
PDD?
Yes, sir.
So you have to have a certain amount of acreage as a PDD in order to, and what are the advantages of that? Why don't you just develop it?
So the other parcel that's already currently in the city and zone PDD is too small to do its own initial master plan. So it's under 10 acres. You need a minimum of 10 acres. So it's
So why
only
don't
8.
they just do it?
It's under a PDD and they have to master plan it.
It's under a PDD, under the old Savannah track? Okay. And have you talked to Jasper County about this?
No, I don't believe we have approached it just per county.
Let's just say, like you heard me ask before, let's say we don't want to annex. Do you go to Jasper County?
Hi, Jordan Holloway here with the applicant. We can't really go to Jasper County because the front portion, like staff said, is already within City of Hardeeville. The back portion is not. So we are really coming through this whole process with the help of staff to meet those general acreage requirements,
Okay.
Which is kind of why we're going through the annexation process and everything like that, sir.
Okay. When was the last time you went end to end on Freedom Parkway?
Every day.
Okay. Pretty bad shape, isn't it?
It's not the best.
Huh?
It's not the best.
Not the best.
Not the best.
So if we approve this, will you resurface the length of Freedom Parkway?
No, I don't believe we will.
And then I'll go back to some of the previous concerns. Big trucks, little trucks, whatever, we're just contributing to a very bad situation. That's a concern. Also, now go back to the first one that showed where the houses are. Pictures. Okay. Now, up. See, let's go. See the picture on the left? That's right.
Mayor, if I may add, one thing that we didn't identify properly earlier is that this is in the section identified by DOT to do a full reclamation of the whole payment section. They are behind schedule, no doubt that it. This project was led, I think, in 2022, and just like Clarios done all their improvements, they're still waiting on DOT to come through and do their paving. But this section in front of this parcel is identified and led already for improvements.
It is.
It is.
And
we can make that info available.
We would need it, just like all the other things that are about 10 years behind on DOT. No slur intended, it's just reality, okay? Now, see the house on the left? Do you know who lives there? It's a house that was devoted last year to Family Promise, right across from Honeysucker Road, where all this is going to come. Not to mention all the other homes that are along Freedom Parkway. So I'm going to go back to Mr. Mearsman's concern. Not only is the road in horrible shape, but we're proposing and it's a nice product, and commercial probably is needed down there. I don't dispute that. However, it's across from families, and that concerns me. And Freedom Parkway, besides being a total mess in terms of its surface, it's a two-lane road with mostly no shoulders, no breakdown roads, no nothing. So it just adds to the overall concern of the entire Levy community. And the reason I brought up Macedonia Road, we approved Clarius. Mr. Harper, who's a friend of mine, says, Harry, please come take a look at this. And when I said the back of where those big buildings are, that's in his kitchen, I was only exaggerating by a few feet. I was embarrassed that I said yes to that. We cannot make those mistakes again, okay? Because of the Family Promise people and all the other families along there. And that's my concern. If what's happening with Levy now, between Clarius, the sand pit, there's a gated community, Osprey Lake down there, and Levy has no master plan. It's like a patchwork quilt. Whoever owns a piece of property and they want to put something there, that's what it ends up. We got warehouses next to homes, and it's just a mess, so to speak. And I'm going to go back to say this as much for council as when I came here 10 years ago. Brana said to me, Hardyville's like a blank canvas. We can paint it any way we want. And that's pretty much true. We have an industrial section, we have Old Town, and we have a residential section, and we have sections devoted to commercial. We have a master plan for the city. Levy has nothing. It's just a patchwork quilt. And I think before we add to the problem, I'll go back to what I said earlier. We need to sit with Jasper County and somehow come up with a master plan for the what is Levy, Hardyville section, because it is just gotten too crazy. I think we all have to think about what's the kind of canvas do we want to paint for Levy, even though they're not mostly in the city limits, the people who live down there. I think we owe it to them to be very conscious of their concerns and their lifestyle as we put more and more things down there. So I understand, I understand you are good people, and I thank you for wanting to do something positive. But I think we need to, just like I said earlier, we need to sit back, talk to Jasper County in a joint meeting, and ask them, what's your plan for Levy? What's the landscape you want to do? So that if we come to us for situations like this, does it fit into the overall plan for that community? This should have been done 20 years ago, but, better late than never, I guess is the saying. So, Council, I don't know what you feel about that, but I think we need to, the more minds, the better, and talk about how do we deal with this community.
This part of the parcel is currently within Hardyville growth boundary, but the areas surrounding it still remain in rural Jasper County.
Yeah.
And I think that conversation with Jasper County we must have that, because they are going to listen to the folks that are in those homes there. To be a good neighbor, I think it's imperative that we do speak with them. That's my thought.
Thank you. Thank you. So, request of you is to please be patient. As I said, you probably heard me say earlier, we want to make sure the decisions we make are good for decisions for 20 years from now, and that we do this with as much consideration and thought as we possibly can. It's the reason we took this extra step, and I applaud Josh and staff for doing it, so that, this is, in the end, whatever decision we make, it'll be a good one. So, Josh, let's reach out to Jasper County on both of these issues, tell them that we would like their thoughts and input, as soon as possible.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Thank you. Where we have that parcel in the front that's already within the city and it's already under PDD, but it's too small to proceed with an IMP, where does that leave us with that? If we wanted to proceed with that piece that's already zoned for that, we're kind of stuck there.
You'll have to go to the experts.
Ask for an expert.
Institutional knowledge is all I've got. And I would defer and ask for guidance from our city manager as well, because that is a very unusual situation, and we don't want to deny them use of their land, but
I think part of it goes back historically. The road tract as a whole was 1,000, 1,100 acres.
it was substantial, and it was supposed to come in all together.
And that's what's causing, I think, a little bit of the disconnect here, is that most of the time you've got something like this, which is, a large contiguous area that's all coming in at the same time. Well, that was part of it, and this was part of it, and then you've got this kind of one.
Out there by itself.
That's it, just kind of hanging out there, which creates a unique situation, because normally you're looking at this on a very large scale, like what we do with most of our PDDs. But this one, because it is disconnected and is owned separately,
It's 8 acres.
yeah, it gets to be difficult in terms of how can it be used as a standalone, since it is disconnected from the rest of the larger tract.
So you see my analogy to a patchwork quilt?
Exactly.
I'm sorry that you're one of the patches in the quilt.
I grew up here, I've seen it
Yeah,
evolve,
all right, so you understand our angst. And also, I would ask council and staff that not a blade of grass be touched until Freedom Parkway is resurfaced.
We will, once you have your conversation with
Right.
Jasper County, then we'll look at options on how we can proceed or not.
Just
and what
keep that in the
options are.
notes, because, again, going down there, that road is in really bad shape.
And Mayor, we can also work on drafting a letter to Secretary Powell,
Okay.
stressing the importance of pursuing this. Like you said, Felipe, this is on their list. We know they're going to get to it, but in terms of prioritization, certainly can make an argument that it is in very bad shape and should be moved to the top of that list.
And again, it's been let, so the contract's been awarded, it just hasn't been executed.
Yeah, who was the contract awarded to?
Chief Ferrovial, I think, under APAC.
APAC.
Eurovia and APEC.
APAC will be ready in about 20 years. They got so much work. Okay, and that's the, and believe me, we're using them for a lot of projects. And, so we understand why the delays. We're waiting on lights to be built, roads. It's the volume, not the quality. They're very busy, and because they do good work. But there's only so many hands in the kitchen at any one time. So I think it would be very important for us to know what a real timetable is, because road timetables have a way of moving. Right, Matt? So any other concerns before I turn it over to the public?
No, sir.
The applicant do you have any other questions for us so that we know what we need to get back to you? And if at any time there are questions for us that you want us to consider before decision time, then please let staff know and they'll get it to us.
It's mostly just working with staff to figure out next steps, hearing
Right.
your concerns and everything, and a lot of it are out of our hands and they're out of your hands as well. And
Right.
to be a good neighbor and work with everyone, but still acknowledging there's a whole bunch of different timelines there that are kind of mixed up in this. So just guidance from staff is what we're looking for.
And your staff has been great to work with
Yes.
consistently.
I hear that all the time, from them too. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Matt, did you have something to say?
I just thought maybe it was important to perhaps share a little bit of background information since council members Guzman and Mearsman weren't here when we adopted the annexation policy and growth boundary map, and I was primarily responsible for doing that. So just wanted to share a few things. So I'm not up here to advocate neither for nor against either one, but these comments, again, when we looked at establishing the annexation and growth boundary, we looked at existing development, looked upon at the existing city boundary. Then we looked at logical places to have that division with either roadways or waterways for the most part. And then we were strategic along US 17 and did not recommend annexation of any new properties adjacent to the Savannah Wildlife Refuge. As you alluded to, as the mayor alluded to, certainly there was a decision made a few years ago, but there were some external factors there that maybe impacted that decision. So that's probably why that was done. And then I just want to leave you with something that I was pretty consistent about during that process when we adopted this policy, because there was a lot of concern, even in the Levy area. If you recall, some folks came out from that area and were concerned. And what I said was that the growth boundary is not a develop to line, but rather a do not go beyond line. So the point being that, just because it's within a boundary doesn't mean it needs to be, but there may be circumstances. But again, it's not a hard and fast, it's a guiding document. It's not, it's not the law, but it is a guiding document. And, you have to look at each thing individually, each request. But that was the thought process in establishing the growth boundary.
Yeah, and we, if I recall, Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, we purposefully, if you look at the growth boundaries, we included all of Levy.
We did.
Because if some day down the road, Levy saw a benefit to being inside the city limits as opposed to unincorporated and not city services.
Land use has changed, people's desires change, and
Right.
it makes sense to package a lot of properties together, for example. It may not ever happen, but we just said, again, and again, that 315 boundary was a very logical boundary.
Right.
So that's why that was done.
Right. And I also, I'm sorry.
I applaud staff for coming up with the growth boundaries. I think it was very, you saw what the future could possibly be, and you covered what needs to be covered. I wholeheartedly agree with the work that you've done. As these individual properties come in for annexation, then that falls back on us, the council, to consider what is best for the community of Hardeeville, the unincorporated areas that are going to be adjacent to it. Some of it's not an easy decision.
That's right.
But it has no reflection back on staff or anything else. This is just our decision that we feel that is gonna be best for the community as a whole.
Oh, and I wasn't trying to be defensive in any way. I was just trying
No,
to.
no, I'm glad you
How we got to the-
I'm glad you pointed that out, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one other note that I forgot to bring up. As we go, particularly in this area, and you grew up here, right? We have a lot of areas in Hardeeville and Bluffton that are trying to get out of septic and to build new product with septic, I think is contrary to the goal of all of us in government around here, particularly in the low areas that we are, how they're adjacent to to wetlands, adjacent to waterways. You know, I could bring up Mayor Toomer here from Bluffton, and he'd really give you a lecture about septics, right? You know, so to now add something with septic is a concern of mine. And you don't have to comment. It's just a note that I had made. I'd rather not build on septic. I did a little field trip out to the U-Haul Creek, even though that's not a Hardyville issue. At the proposed development wants to put 120 septic systems right on the creek. Meanwhile, Bluffton's trying to eliminate them so that the septic doesn't run off into the May River. So that's what I talk about, a unified, countywide view of things so that, Ridgeland's going one way, Jasper County's going another way, and Hardyville's going another way, and never the twain shall meet. We have to meet. So, end of my little comment.
Just, again, knowing that the next step is going to be to set that joint meeting, something to possibly think about, again, so that we can kind of move some of this along on parallel paths. One of the things that we may want to look at, and I'll talk to staff about this afterwards to kind of understand what this may or may not entail, but as I understand it, you're really kind of looking at annexing this property as a means to an end. Not that you're necessarily looking to change anything, but it's what you have to do in order to move forward. Another route may be to look at rezoning the property from the PDD to something else. And again, don't know what that is, but understanding where you're trying to get to, that might be a better path to take, particularly if there's going to be questions about what is or is not allowed under the PDD. So again, something to think about along the parallel path might be to look at rezoning that front portion to something that will allow you or aligns with what you're trying to do, and then we could eliminate the discussion about having to bring everything else in. So just food for thought.
Okay, we do have a lot of people here from the public here today, so I do want to open it up to the public to any comments or questions that you might have.
I mean, it's good we don't. She's mad.
They'll be attacking you out in the parking lot. So we have the police out there, the chief's behind you to escort you to your car. Okay, thank you very much. And again, thank you for your patience. As one of our absent council members often says, we don't want to be in a hurry to make a mistake. So please bear with us. Having said that, council, unless you have any other comments or questions, we could adjourn a lot faster than I would have expected.
Make a motion for adjournment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.